My friends, I don't know if you've heard, but today there was some huge news that broke that caught me for a complete shock, I have to say. Microsoft is buying Activision Blizzard. Now, on this channel, I mostly do reviews, the occasional discussion. I've never done this kind of on the day of react to a news event, but this particular event shocked me so much, it shocked everybody, that I felt like I should just sit down, record my thoughts, put it on some gameplay footage, and let you guys listen to it. One thing that I noticed was there were two immediate reactions on Twitter and on Reddit and stuff. The first was the hope that by acquiring Activision Blizzard, Microsoft would be able to quote-unquote clean house. Obviously, Activision Blizzard has been under a lot of pressure because of some of the heinous things that have happened to women working at Activision Blizzard, and rightfully so. The fact that they're getting heat for it, I mean, obviously. You know, they're under legal trouble, gamers are mad, there are boycotts for their products, all of this kind of thing. So people are hoping that Microsoft will fire people like Bobby Kotick, maybe get rid of some of the more problematic individuals, and restore Activision Blizzard to its moral high ground. That could be. There might also be dirty skeletons in Microsoft's closet that we don't know yet. In either case, we'll have to see about that. The other reaction I saw was that this is monopolistic, that Microsoft taking over Activision Blizzard means less competition in the game space and could be legally dubious, but at the very least it's a sign of further consolidation and doom and gloom for the future of video games. And, okay, to some extent that's true, right? We're looking at the possibility that big franchises like Call of Duty will be exclusive to Xbox and PC because owned by Xbox Game Studio. Here's the thing. I think that's good. I do. And I know that a lot of people will disagree with me on that, but hear me out. So, if you think back to gaming generations of yesteryear, we're talking NES versus the Master System, SNES versus the Genesis, N64 compared to the PlayStation 1. Each console in those generations had a specific and unique identity. You know, you can feel what a Super Nintendo game is, and you can contrast that to the feel of a Genesis game. The reason for this is because the hardware was so different, and licenses promoted exclusivity on different consoles, that each console of each generation had fairly separate libraries. Now, there were some overlap, especially in things like licensed games, the Capcom Disney games, stuff like that. But by and large, you had exclusives. You bought the platform that had the games that you most wanted to play. That has not been the case since, I would say, the Xbox 360, PS3 era. At that point, we started seeing more games targeting both of the big main consoles, the Wii being excluded here. And that got even worse. Or one could say better, but I think in a way worse with the Xbox One and the PS4 era, because the hardware was so similar. Why wouldn't you just release it on both instead of making it be exclusive to one or the other? You're losing sales that way, right? And people have lauded this as pro-consumer. And yes, it is, right? A consumer does not have to buy a piece of hardware and then be unable to play other games. You know, you buy one console and you can play, I would say 90% of the games that come out if you pick a Sony console or you pick a Microsoft console. So that's pro-consumer in that way. But I don't think that it is good for the industry. Why did the PS4 beat the pants off of the Xbox One? They had an early lead. They had an early lead because Microsoft's marketing for the Xbox One was shit and told gamers that they couldn't play their used games and then this thing was going to track you and all of that different stuff. And that was no good and nobody bought it. But that was in the very beginning of the console generation. There would have been, and Microsoft fixed those things. The Xbox does not track you. It does not have always on Connect. You can buy used games. I buy used Xbox games all of the time. Yet people stayed with PlayStation. And one of the best things that came out of the last generation was the exclusives that were on PlayStation. Specifically for me, Marvel's Spider-Man is a key highlight. That game is amazing, and to this day you can still only play it on PlayStation. People have also really liked God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, The Last of Us. I think The Last of Us is still exclusive to PlayStation. Horizon Zero Dawn and God of War are now on PC, but only like now they're on PC. All of these games are reasons to pick up a PlayStation, and if you have to make a choice, and you can only choose one, you're going to pick the PlayStation because it has all of these high-budget exclusives, whereas the Xbox doesn't really. There are some, there's Halo, Gears of War, Sunset Overdrive, which I heard was good, but also nobody played because it was on the Xbox and only on the Xbox. The Xbox had almost no exclusives, and those that it did, Cuphead, for instance, you could play on PC anyway, so it wasn't even a true exclusive. My contention is that right now there is no real competition in the console space. There's the console that has all of the good exclusives, and the console that has the best value. The Xbox clearly has the best value. Game Pass is an amazing thing. $5 a month, and you can play so many different games. High-budget games, indie games, whatever. It's just right there for you. It's an amazing service. On top of that, what I really like about Xbox is how it keeps backwards compatibility and even enhances old games. You can put an Xbox 360 game into an Xbox Series X, have it upscaled to 4K, it's running at better frame rates than ever. It's an amazing thing. And for a retro gamer like myself, the possibility of that technology is amazing. It makes me want to invest in the Xbox line, and I have to some extent. I have an Xbox One X, I have an Xbox Series X. But I buy almost all of my games on PlayStation. And the reason why I buy almost all of my games on PlayStation is because PlayStation has a lot of exclusives, or at least games that aren't exclusive but only come out on PS4 and Switch, namely JRPGs. Because I can only get these games on PlayStation if I want the best experience, right? I love the Switch, but the PlayStation 5 is where I'm going to buy most of my JRPGs. I have to play PlayStation. And then it becomes a convenience thing. Typically one buys most of their games for one platform. If you have all of your friends on that platform, you stick to that platform. So there are a lot of reasons for me not to play stuff on Xbox, even if otherwise I'd want to. By acquiring a big publisher like Activision Blizzard and keeping those games exclusive to the Xbox platform, Microsoft creates competition where there was not before. Now you'll have a bunch of guys who have their PS4s and love to play Call of Duty. They can finally get a next-gen system. Oh wait, Call of Duty isn't going to be on the PlayStation 5 anymore. Maybe I should grab an Xbox. The same logic goes for Bethesda, by the way. But the fact of the matter is, exclusives sell consoles. And if Microsoft wants to compete in the console space, they need to sell consoles. Yes, obviously, their target, they care more about selling Game Pass subscriptions and all of that, but for most people, if you want to use Game Pass, you use a console, or you have a high-end PC, in which case, that's their own tribe. But to compete in the console space, Microsoft has to sell consoles, and you have to give gamers a reason to buy your console. And while value is good, exclusives are the critical juncture for most people in choosing to buy that console. So, for the future of the game industry, if we see Microsoft buy more and more of these studios, PlayStation will follow suit. They have acquired some studios, probably won't be buying any huge ones like this. $70 billion is astronomical. But it will create unique identities for each side. Microsoft will have these kinds of games, and PlayStation will have these kinds of games, and there will be some overlap, specifically with indies. There's going to be way more overlap than there was back in the day because the hardware is still so similar, but there will be an actual difference between the two systems. And in terms of consoles competing with one another, that's what we need. Competition is made by difference. It's not made by similarities. So while I hear the people, talking about this monopolistic practice and downplaying competition, I disagree. I think it increases console competition. To top it all off, to return to the first point, I do think that Microsoft can do some things to make Activision Blizzard a better company. And I'm not speaking specifically about the moral stuff. That should happen regardless, in my opinion. But look at some of the better games that Activision has come out with. I don't play a whole lot of Activision games, but I did pick up the Crash Bandicoot game because it's a platformer. I like platformers. It seemed to be a really good platformer. I haven't played it yet, but I do own it, and I bought it new. And it got great critical reception. And then Activision Blizzard announced that Toys for Bob would be working exclusively on support for COD, on support for Call of Duty, which means that there wouldn't be a Crash Bandicoot 5 made by Toys for Bob. And that happened to a couple of different studios that put out great games and then were told to go work on COD, because COD is where the money is. Microsoft, on the whole, has seemed to be really good, especially in the past couple of years, at encouraging their studios to build these good games, and not necessarily going for always the most profitable. You can dispute that even looking at some of the multiplayer stuff with Halo Infinite, but I think we can agree that Microsoft is better at this than Activision Blizzard was. So my hope would be that, give it a year or two, things have to be finalized, and then Microsoft really has to incorporate Activision Blizzard into their whole thing, but that they can step in and change the values present at that company to make it more about the quality of the games rather than the amount of money that they bring in. Which is not to say that they shouldn't bring in a lot of money, but I used to be a WoW player, and I don't play WoW anymore. And I don't play WoW anymore because the game's bad. And a lot of the reason why the game is bad is because the decisions made at the higher ups that reflect a different philosophy about gameplay than used to be present. And if Microsoft can bring that back, then all of a sudden there's a reason for me to play WoW again. There's a reason for me to give them $15 every month to play the same game. That's profit right there. Quality breeds profit. And competition, I think, will help that. And I think that Blizzard, ironically enough, acquiring this one studio and making those games its exclusives will help breed competition. I mean, people can claim, Microsoft should be investing in new IPs and doing it all that way, but that takes time, a lot more time than just buying out the studio. And I think that the outcome would be the same. So overall, I think this is a really interesting move. I want to see how things develop from here, but I think it's a good thing, and I'm happy that they did it, and hopefully Microsoft can make this into an excellent studio again. But let me know what you think. I'm sure that a lot of you will disagree, but that's okay. Discussion is where we have competition, we have disagreement, and we can hash things out. I'm not right in everything that I say. But if you liked this video, let me know. If you disliked it, let me know. And I will see you guys later for more Gaming Through the Ages content. Have a great evening, everybody.